establish the piece of muslin that you need. You know, now that you understand that, you really don't have to do anything more than this. I'm just doing that so I can clip and rip a rectangle out of this. I need to give my selvage a quick press. Brenda, when are we going to have lunch since we don't have a lunch break today?
Apparently never.
I can feed you as you fit.
All the food that you're not eating?
Yeah. You can have most of my PB and J, bro. No. I could like go get grapes and like dangle them above your face.
I don't want you to dangle them, I want you to put them in my face. All right, step one, draw in my straight grade.
Woo.
Step two, draw in my cross grade.
Is this, when we draped the first time, we had that specific measurement for where our cross grain went? Is that still a thing?
No, because that really just had to do with getting it across the bust point.
Great.
And making sure that you had enough fabric. In the long run, you can place this wherever you like. If you want to try and generate that measurement, you can, but it's not crucial.
Cool.
Step three, match straight grain on muslin to center front on dress form. Stab in place. Step next, get my cross grade in place. Again, it should be parallel to her waist and the floor. Just need that. And I'm going to go a little beyond my style line. Just like before when you draped, I told you to go a little beyond the shoulder seam or the side seam. Step next, smooth upward along my style line, pin, pin, pin. I can feel that it's going to need some clipping, so I'm going to do a little clipping right now. Smooth along the neckline and pin. I could probably stand to clip a few more, but in the interest of demonstration, I'm not going to do it right now. There. Now I've resolved that particular portion of it, correct? Let's do a little more clip and a little trim. How's my fit?
It's nice.
All right, now that I've worked above the cross grain line, now I'm going to work down below the cross grain line, stab along my style line, stab along my style line, stab along my style line, and there we have it. Just as you did before, you're going to go in and mark, 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 mark. It's the Swedish chef drapes.
My boyfriend has the Swedish Chef as his ringtone.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's hilarious.
I love the Swedish chef. I can now trim away my excess muslin. The thing that I like about this particular step is, watch what happens.
That's beautiful.
Now, I can actually take the other side, where I don't have a selvage anymore, but I know that that's a straight grain edge. Mark my straight grade. Mark my cross grade. And I'm ready to start the So here's my question. Now I'm ready to drape this whole piece over here. Where does my grain want to go? Up until now, you've matched your grain either to center front or to center back. And without even thinking about it, I just drew in my grain line as if we were going to do that again. It doesn't really work in this instance, does it? For the purposes of this project, you are going to place your grain on your side front piece so that it's perpendicular to the waist. And so that actually means that you need to draw your grain line in down the middle of the piece as opposed to the edge of the piece. Again, if we were to look at history, we would see this grain shift all over the place depending upon what your anticipated outcome is, what your desired outcome is. But for the purposes of this project, I want it to be perpendicular to my waist. So, just like I've done every other place, what's my very first step when I go to lay the muslin onto the form? Get my straight grain and my cross grain in place. So I'm going to do this. Turn this way so the camera can see it a little better. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Look at what happens to my straight grain as I continue up. Not really perpendicular to the waist anymore, is it?
Will you rotate? Cool.
Is that the good news, the bad news? That I'm truly perpendicular there, but then it starts to do something weird right there.
It's just the news.
It's just the news. Now I can get my cross grain in place, just like we've done before. Again, my cross grain is going to be perpendicular to the waist on this plane, but certainly it's going to shift when it trails up. So then my cross grain is in place. Does this look familiar? Now we've got quadrants. Quadrant 1, quadrant 2, 3, 4, right?
Let's take a picture of that.
Just like you had in your first draping project. So what does that mean I'm going to do? Say it again, Alyssa.
Smooth it out.
Smooth. Does it matter which quadrant I do first? In theory, no. I'm going to go ahead and start with this quadrant right here. And I'm going to start smoothing back towards my princess style line. And I'm going to stab, bless you, into the princess style line.
Ted, can I take, before you smooth the bottom quadrants, can I take a photo? About where
Absolutely.
it's resting?
Do you want to take a photo right now?
Yes.
All right. And smooth, and smooth, and smooth. One of the things we talked about during your first draping project was make sure that you don't use a marker. This is the place where people tend to want to use the marker, because if you draw in a darker line under here, then you can see it through to here better. One of the things that I'm really enjoying about this particular ribbon that I chose is I can feel it. Where I can't see it, I can feel it. And so then I can follow it easily. I can also follow the pins that are holding the first piece in place. So smooth up. Looks like I need a little clip right here and a little trim. A little trim. And there, quadrant 1. I just need one last pin right here so that it's just beyond the shoulder seam. And quadrant 1 is in place. I'm just going to work out this way because I'm here. There's quadrant 2. I took 1 pin. How do you like that?
That's pretty fancy.
Quadrant 3. Does this look familiar?
Yeah.
It should. It's all the same that you've done before, right? Over here, I'm definitely going to need to do some trimming and some clipping, just to get the muslin out of my way. And then last but not least, quadrant 4. And boo. I don't have enough muslin to get all the way over there.
No.
So I would lift it up and move it over and start over and then be sad that I just trimmed this little bit off because I might need it. Do you need me to go any further or do you get the point?
I have a question about grain though.
Go.
So to review how that works, you establish the grain from, do you use this, does it matter where you make it parallel with the waist?
Does it matter where you make it perpendicular to the waist? It doesn't.
Okay.
Choose a point on the waist and make it perpendicular there.
And then I noticed that the cross grain is different from the other cross grain on the other one, so the cross grain's kind of going that way, seems like diagonal.
That's just because it's starting to wrap over the planes. Generally speaking, it is still parallel to the waist and to the floor, and that's our goal.
Okay.
Do you need 2 straight grain lines, or was it just because you moved?
It was just because I moved it over. You only need 1. Other questions? So, once I get all of this draped, I will then mark, just like I marked before. Swedish Chef mark all of the edges of my draping, right? Now that we're starting to move into multiple pieces, there is one other step that we need to do before we're ready to take the thing off the dress form and pin baste it back together. That step is notches. As you know, notches are match-up marks. They show how the pieces of the puzzle go together. If you end up with a pattern that has 18 different pieces, then you need to be able to see how A fits to B. They truly are a puzzle. Along this line, there's really only one place that I absolutely need a notch. There's only one place where I absolutely need to see how the pieces fit together. Where's that point?
Would it be point? Point, yeah, sorry.
It's totally the bust point, you know, because my muslin isn't big enough, I can't mark it on both. But I would want that bust point marking. For your purposes, I'm also going to tell you that you need another notch up here, someplace between bust point and the top, and another notch down here, someplace between bust point and the bottom. And of course, this gets marked on both pieces. So in fact, when I draped this piece, I could have marked each of those notches first, and in fact, in some ways, I probably should have. And then when I'm tracing through all of my lines, I'm also tracing through my notches. Why are these notches so important?
So they fit together.
And when you say so they fit together,